You've never played WoW?
I played World of Warcraft. No, I played World of Warcraft. No World of Warcraft. I don't want to get in there, man. I don't want to be that deep. I don't want to give up on life just yet. I don't. I'm not ready.
You gave up on life a long time ago. Hey, Screenmates, I'm Nick. This is
Miles.
And this is... He's not going to say it. That's FPS, aka fish per second, named by named by Chub Shin Megami in the comments of yesterday's video. Do you want to name another living creature, you sick, power-hungry freak? Well, let us know what you think the fish should be called in the comments using the hashtag #NameDatFish. But today, we're not here talking about fish.
We covered that.
I think we've well and truly
done.
covered fish. We don't need to talk about fish anymore. It's time to move on to the topic of the day, and that is, do you prefer a great sequel or great ongoing support for a game? This has been brought on by the fact that Rainbow Six Siege had their invitational event over the weekend, and they announced a bunch of new content for the game. They also announced the roadmap for the game for the next, I would say 1 year, but it's for the next 10 years. They basically want this game to exist for the rest of time. They are not going to make a sequel, which people were, it's starting to get to the time a few years after the game's been released, where it's heading into its third year of going, yeah, maybe it's time we start seeing a sequel for this game. They've gone, no, we're not going to put out a sequel. In fact, we're never going to put out a sequel. We cancelled the sequel that we may or may not have been working on, and now we're just going to support the game with ongoing operators, new maps, new modes, and I think this is actually a really good thing. We're turning the games as a service into something that is this constant ongoing support. And for a game like Rainbow Six Siege, which can just be constantly updated with new maps and modes and that sort of thing, this is not a game that needs a sequel. Story-based games, to me, need sequels.
Oh, yeah, because the story is a contained event that once you've finished it, you're done.
You're done with that story.
DLC, sometimes kind of maybe, but not always. I don't think DLC adds enough to a story to validate its existence, but for you, this is something that can be continually pumped for the life.
100%.
But where do you go? So where are we going from here? Ubisoft have said they're going to have up to 100 operators.
Which basically turns Siege into a MOBA.
That's nuts though, man.
That's beyond anything that any shooter really has. But that makes sense to me because Siege, I can't tell you how much Siege I've played over the weekend. I played the game a couple of years ago. It didn't really grab me. For whatever reason, I watched a bit of the invitation. I was like, Aussie, Mind Freak are going to take it out. Of course, we bombed out. But, top 8 is good, but it's not number 1, is it, Mind Freak? Hey, you're competing to be number 1. You didn't get number 1. It's fine. I'm not saying I could do any better, but maybe I would have got top 6. And I just started playing the game over the weekend intensely. Holy shit, it is so much fun, and I'm surprisingly good. I think I was born to be a terrorist hunter, a siegist. Except for the times when I'm defending a hostage and then that feels like I'm the bad guy. But the thing is that part of the appeal of the game is all the different operators. Actually, it feels like a MOBA to me, which is one of my favorite genres of games, that they all play really, really differently, not just like a shooter. So I feel like 100 operators, that's a good idea. That is a huge amount of depth and variety and meta for the game.
Meta.
The wrong show. The words aren't going to come up here. You're thinking about your eSports show, which people will see tomorrow, and maybe a word will appear on screen.
One thing for me about 100 operators, and this is just something that's a logistical issue as a game developer, there are only so many classes of character, so many sort of real world, because Rainbow Six Siege is relatively real world in its setting, it's quite modern. How many... how much overlay are we going to have between abilities? Like,
Overlap?
Are we going to have between abilities? Because there's only one dude with a big riot shield, right?
There's a couple of shield guys.
But there's one big shield.
Oh, there's one sort of full body shield.
Yeah, because I don't know enough about all the characters from Siege, now that there's only, 20-something. When there's 100, and, the game's been out for over 10 years...
Excuse me, mate. The guy has the shield on the front. There could be a guy with a shield on the right-hand side,
a
guy with a shield on the left-hand side, and a guy with shield on his bottom.
Like Turtle Man.
Yeah, like a turtle. And then a guy with 4 shields. Can't shoot, just stands there. He's basically just a room.
Just handing out shields to his teammates. There you go. But this is the thing, is a logistical issue. Like, designing a game like that takes a lot of time and balance. And that's one thing that Rainbow Six Siege has done really well, is to be balanced as a first-person shooter. Which in 2018 is a bloody nightmare.
That's very true.
And to actually balance those 100 characters, operators, if you will, and have them interplay with each other. Go for it, Ubisoft. Go for it. I mean, this is a Herculean task, but go for it, man.
But here's the thing to me. Here's why I like something like this. Because, like I said, now's about the time that you would put out a sequel, that you would go, okay, we're going to ask for a bunch of new money. At the moment, because there's a lot of... are you laughing at new money? Because I'm
like-
thinking about new money.
Yeah, like, this money's old.
Yeah,
I'd like some new money, please.
Old British aristocrats aren't allowed to buy this game. It's only people who have invested in Bitcoin. No, the reason is that there's a lot of games competing for our time now. Everyone wants to be a games as a service, and I'm going to use Overwatch as an example of being something. You can play Overwatch, you can play Rainbow Six Siege, you can play PUB, and that if you release a sequel, there is the potential that you're splintering your fan base there. That you go, okay, well, there's a bunch of people that want to buy Rainbow Six Siege, and they've already bought and they're playing, they're loving it. Rainbow Six Siege 2 comes out, and those people, not everyone necessarily will go across and buy that. People might want to hang out and continue playing the first one. And suddenly people go, oh, well, now I own this one, other people are playing this one. Maybe I'll play this other game that I own that I haven't really played. But if you have this drip feed of content, it keeps pulling you back to that original title.
You're literally hooked. Like, it's in... As soon as you take it out, you're like, oh, I can breathe again! Yeah. I'm going to play another game now.
They're basically saying never remove the needle.
Don't ever remove the needle. One thing for me on changing game titles, so Rainbow Six Siege is running on a particular game engine.
Yeah.
If they make a second one, the chances of them updating their game engine are considerably high. Like, it happens when you look at the Halo series, the COD series, almost any first-person shooter game outside of Counter-Strike, and even then 1.6 the source to CSGO, there's a game engine change there. It changes the way the game feels and plays entirely. Like, I can tell when I'm playing Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, like, it just feels different. The way your cursor moves, the way bullets register, the way everything plays. That throws fans off. Halo's 1 to 2 were different games. Halo's 3 to 4 to whatever we're up to now.
I think it's 5.
Totally different.
I think you just missed one number.
It's being a dick. It's totally different, and that feel kills fans, kills players' like enjoyment of the game. So if you make a Rainbow Six Siege 2, it might just throw people off horribly.
It's also part of the reason that people make sequels to multiplayer games like this, that they go, okay, we've had a bunch of learnings from the first one, and that we've made a bunch of improvements to the engine and updates that we go, we need to add this stuff in into a new game entirely, because we can't just patch this in. We can't patch in a new engine. It's going to freak everybody out. But Siege is actually in a solid place. It launched with some bumpy bugs and issues and some problems, but it worked through its teething issues, and now it's a solid shooter that does not need necessarily mechanical updates, it needs content updates, and so now that's what we're getting.
One thing of Siege is this is like the most fantastic success story for a first-person shooter, because it did launch to quite like a lackluster affair. Like, it wasn't the greatest first-person shooter in the world. It didn't have the biggest player base, but there's been a relatively steady growth.
27 million people playing it, apparently. I can't believe that they're all playing it like consistently. I think it's 27 million people who have bought a version of the potential 40 versions of Siege that you can buy at any time.
How good are free weekends?
Free weekends.
How good are free weekends?
Free weekends work well. But yeah, that is still a pretty large player base.
But again, to see that kind of growth in a game that they didn't let go of, they didn't give up on it. Fans kept the faith. I know Dan kept the faith. He did it. He's got his fist in the air right now. He kept the faith.
Producer Dan is the reason that I am playing Siege, because he was like, it's a really good game, and I went, fuck off, mate. I've played it. It's shit. And I apologize. I apologize for the swear, but not for the finger, because you deserved it. And so I am in. And for me, in the changing landscape of video games, if you don't have a strong story in your game, I like the idea of staying with a title that is developing, iterative. It's World of Warcraft, mate. It's the fact that we're still playing World of Warcraft. We're not playing World of Warcraft 2.
500 years later.
They spent $400 million trying to develop a sequel to World of Warcraft, and it didn't really work. Like a new MMO for Blizzard, and they just went, nah, we can't figure out what to make this new with. WoW's still making money hand over fist. Why change? But with this announcement, how do you feel about the idea that this game is now, it's a growing esport, but it's also going to be the same consistent game? Players aren't buying new games, adjusting to new games. Do you prefer an ongoing title, or do you prefer the new, the fresh, the COD needle?
I think the fans prefer an ongoing title. The king on the throne right now is pretty much Counter-Strike.
Oh, okay. It's Counter-Strike as well. It's
Counter-Strike. The game's been around forever. Fans know what they're going to expect. Players as well. It allows players to get really, really fucking good at a single title when you've been playing it for over 10 years. Minor changes here and there do adjust the game. You know, the meta does shift, but essentially you're basically watching the same guys play the same stuff, getting really, really good at it. Makes for a better viewing experience. And also this way, the dev support, like Ubisoft are behind this now. And that's something that a lot of competitive games don't necessarily have that level of developer backing. And if they're playing the long game here with 10 years 10 years, a decade. Like that, Ubisoft have gone, we're back in this horse for 10 years. Are they going to get any more players than they have currently now? Who knows? But the very fact that they want to give that game the love and attention that they think it deserves, and currently now 27 million players, they clearly are fans as well. I do have high hopes for Rainbow Six Siege going forward, man. I don't look forward to jumping on one day and going, that's right, there are 80 operators right now. Which one do I choose? Or like when you get your mate into it.
No.
Your mate's like, what's that cool game, dude? You're like, it's Rainbow Six Siege. And he jumps in for the first time, and then he goes, which character do I play as? And you're like, oh, you can play as that guy, but he's quite similar to this guy.
You're so wrong about that. That's not true at all, because MOBAs have been dealing with this problem for forever, and it's not a problem. Yes, it's intimidating to new players, but the idea of having 100 operators to approach this situation, one, it changes the shifting meta, which tell the people what the meta stands for, because you told me a couple of days ago.
Meta stands for the most efficient tactic available.
I didn't know that was actually an acronym. But the shifting meta means that, one, you can pick any operator you want. There's nuance to that. But also, Ubisoft have come out and they've said that part of the reason that they want to put in 100 operators is if you want someone who can breach, reinforced strong walls, you don't always have to pick Thermite. You can pick Thermite or Wall Blaster or Hole Dude or whatever the other names they're going to pick that sound cool, like Hole Dude.
Door Knocker.
Door Knocker, and that it means you don't have to own all those operators. You go, oh, I need someone to blaster a wall. Well, I already own Door Knocker, and I don't need to buy Hole Dude. It's all part of the plan. It's part of the grand plan.
The part of the plan is to actually kill meta. So there is no meta. Everyone's viable. That's what Overwatch's plan is. But let's be real, dude. People are people. We're gonna break your game, and we will make that meta happen.
And the idea of breaking the meta, you know what that is?
No.
Extremely meta. Okay, now it's time for you guys to have your screenSAY. We'll roll the titles. First up, we've got Mr. L. Coombe says, I prefer a really good sequel as long as it isn't the COD route where a new entry is released each year. But if the time and effort is put in to make a superior sequel, see Naughty Dog for a good example, I am 100% sold. What's that hate on COD?
No.
I think appropriate.
I think it's completely legit. You play a game for 6 to 7 months in a year, right? You buy the new COD, you buy World War II, you're loving it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a new COD coming out.
Yeah.
Discard all that time, energy, and effort,
yeah,
and just do it all again. It's like Groundhog Day for video games. But you know what, dude? COD will be around forever because of that.
It will be.
It will literally be around forever.
It will be. At Scott Sad Dork, I'm sorry about that, Scott, says, for a story-driven game, definitely a good sequel, but I'd rather multi-year support for something like PUB or Fortnite, not exactly waiting for Fortnite 2. Makes sense because, like you said, you know a game, you love a game, you want to keep playing it. At the One Dutchman says, I'd say multi-year support, as making a sequel to a game can be risky and may not stand up to the original, whereas keeping an original game going keeps the old players staying and bringing new players because of great reviews from the old players, which is a very good point.
Really good point.
If you go, 27 million people playing this game, maybe there's a reason.
There's probably a reason, but the foundations have to be so good.
They do have
so good.
They do have to be very good. And then finally, at Tropical Bat 101, which is like teaching the basics about tropical bats. I don't quite understand, but whatever, it's a Twitter username. Multi-year support, by a fair way. You keep most, if not all, progress, and it evolves and expands the story universe. Still very happy for sequels, though every so often to get onto a game on a new generation of console for new graphical features or the next big thing, 3D or the like. And this is the Destiny problem, right? Destiny is all about like getting that sick, sparkly helmet with the thing up here, and then just when you've got it, they're like, hey, Destiny 2's coming out, and all of that is now gone, and you're just a bare naked moon boy.
Lost my powers again.
It's just useless. All right, that is it for the show. Let us know in the comments what you think. Do you prefer to see sequels to these sort of service-based games, or do you just want it run forever and ever 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 and ever? And I assume at some point we'll cut. Endeavor, endeavor, endeavor. It sounds like I'm saying endeavor.
You did say
endeavor. Endeavor, 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 and devour, and devour, and devour, and devour, and devour. And devour.
And that's it for us. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and watch all our other videos. We assure you, they're gems.
That's right. We've got a gem right here for you. Best games of 2018 so far. Maybe it's Siege. Can you technically say that it's a 2018 game because they just keep putting content for it? Maybe it's WoW. Maybe it's WoW because I'm still playing WoW.